Okay, before we get into the podcast this week, I just want to thank our sponsor for the month, Tryptic Press. Our buddies over at Tryptic Press specialize in getting new businesses up and running, as well as keeping old businesses running. They provide design services, including logos and branding, websites, and e-commerce shops. They'll design and print all your brochures, mailers, banners, and posters. Whether you're just starting out or your business needs a makeover, visit www.trypticpress.com for all your design, online, and printing needs.
That's how the police get you on a wiretap.
Oh, okay.
One's a police officer who knows you're being recorded.
Yeah, that's... Huh.
You're the guy being recorded, so...
Gotcha.
You remember how they got you. Come on.
Okay. Welcome back, Inebri-Art. This is Andy of the Inebri-Art podcast. We are recording back again at the Craft Beer Cellar on Main Street in Plymouth. If you have not been here yet, which it seems like more and more of our guests have not, there's no reason not to. Come down. There's a boatload of local beers and boutique wines, and check them out. So, our next guest, we've known since 2010-ish. He's one of the founding members of Inebri-Art. He is a freelance graphic designer, web designer, illustrator, corporate identity maker, and all-around incredibly fast drawer. John Cardinal.
Oh, hello.
Monster. Welcome to the show.
Hello.
What's up, man?
How you doing?
It's weird. I think it's harder interviewing people that I know already than trying to, because it's like trying to make a informative conversation out of someone that's not inside jokes.
Right.
So you have been freelance for all of
what?
A couple months? Like officially, I mean, you've always done.
I've always been freelance,
but
and more
full-time freelance.
Full-time freelance, or more specifically, my part-time pursuit of my side company, Tryptic Press, became my main focus. So that's been around since 2013.
Mm-hmm.
So as of about 3 months ago, I made that my main mission in life is to take Tryptic Press and bring it up, make it a much larger, much busier pursuit. So
Tryptic started off with Chroma.
Tryptic Press started off with myself and two of my art school buddies, Mike Crockett and Andy Houle. The three of us got together and decided to do a sketchbook for our Boston Comic Con that we called Tryptic. So a play off of a 3-part painting. Mm-hmm. So there was three of us, a 3-part painting.
So this was even before Chroma.
Yeah, so Tryptic, the sketchbook, was the first thing we did. And we called it Tryptic. So we said, this is cool.
I don't think I have one of those.
Not many people do. I think there was like 50 of them that we made for Boston Comic Con.
Yeah.
I think I only have like one or two. But that was a sketchbook for the three of us. And then that's where the idea for Chroma came from, where we said, why don't we have the three of us? We make a much more grander book. Mm-hmm. And the three of us would invite three people that we liked. So each person invited three other people that they liked. And that's how we figured out the first roster of Chroma and made a much larger art annual out of it, a much more finished product out of it. And when we were putting together the book, we said, well, we need a name for the book, maybe Tryptic. Well, we didn't like that. They didn't like that for the name, or we didn't think that was suitable for that. But they were like, Tryptic Press will be the imprint that we make Chroma eventually came out of. So that's the impetus of how that happened.
And there were like 5 volumes?
There's 4 as of right now.
Okay.
So 4 in 6 years. Basically, depending on what we have going on in life, it's been a little bit of a break here and there.
Right,
so
right.
we have a fifth one sort of scheduled, but based on, life stuff.
Yeah, everyone else has projects.
Andy just had his, and
that's
his
right,
wife
he
just had their
kid.
second baby.
Yeah.
Just had a baby boy. So he's been crazy busy. Mike's been crazy busy. So it's like, to get the whole team back together, it's been a little bit of a, we just haven't had the time to do it, and we've been running Beverly Comic Con for the last few years. That took that's taking a break right now.
Yeah.
So we've been busy with a lot of other projects, or Chroma has been there waiting, but it's been, until we can get the whole Voltron back together, it's not going to happen. So
right.
we have very big plans for that. We have about 25 people we've already talked to. We want to make it the biggest edition we've done. But it's like, until I have those two guys,
right.
I can't do it on my own. So that being said, they were well on board when I decided that I wanted to take the other aspects of Tryptic, not the publishing end of it, but take the other ends of it, the design part of it, the illustration part of it, and sort of shop it on its own.
Mm-hmm.
So when we do publication stuff, Andy and Mike are involved.
Yeah.
They'll always be part of Tryptic. But the day-to-day stuff is now me and my wife. So
yeah.
Shout out to Bethany.
Me wife. So what other things are you offering? It seems like there's just a laundry list of things that you get.
Yeah, I'm trying to cull it down, but the main point of me doing this or going out on my own is that trying to find a day job per se that would allow me to do all the certain things all the things that I'm interested in. Mm-hmm. Whether it be illustration or comic books or comic coloring or children's books or graphic design or website stuff or 3D design, UX design, designing albums. Like I'm interested in all aspects of doing anything digital or print media. I'm only going to find a job that's going to give me one part of that, or two parts of that. It won't allow me to do whatever I want. Mm-hmm. And whatever job you get, you're kind of stuck in that whole, I make this amount of money, and that's it.
Right.
I can do as good as I can. Maybe I'll get a raise, whatever. Now I'm in a position where I offer a lot of different services right now. I'm trying to cull it down to be like, what is the most attractive to people. Mm-hmm. But right now I'm saying, this is what I do. If you want, if you have an idea and you want to make it real, come to me and we'll do that. And I'm not capped by this whole artificial, this is how much money I can make, or this is the only things I can work on.
Right.
Things like that. So now I can do whatever I want to do,
And it's not like in a day job where, if you're a graphic designer, no one's going to come to you and be like, hey, we need this video shot.
Exactly. They're not going to come to you for, they come to you for what you do. People try to put you in a box most of the time. And, and that's not a bad thing. Just people make, they label you when they meet you and they say, oh, this is what you do. And I'm trying to not be that way. I want people to think of me as or think of Tryptic as an art and design studio that can do many things.
Yeah.
So I don't want, that's the website guy. I do that. That's great. But I also, I'm also working on a book cover right now for, for a separate project, or working on marketing and, stuff for a whiskey company that's about to start. So I don't want to just be one thing. I want to be able to pick and choose and try to create a company that can do all of that,
And is it kind of like one of those, if someone comes to you and it's not something you do, you're going to find someone, or?
Yeah, if it's something I think that I can help with.
Yeah.
And it might not be something in my wheelhouse, I'm either going to, recommend a friend. That's the great part of doing Chroma for this last few years is not only do I meet, amazing artists, but sculptors, designers, people in all different pursuits of creative that, musicians. I meet all these people. They all have talents, they all have skills, and we're all kind of like a collective.
Yeah.
So I'm sort of, I want to keep doing that with Tryptic and the people that I use with, that I interact with and try to create a sort of a reference network so that, say you're like, hey, you did great with this. Do you know anybody who does such and such? And I'll be like, absolutely, I know. So, Jonathan does this, or, Paul does this. And it's like, yeah, I could, push other people towards creative, talented people.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if it was something where I can do like 2/3 of it and I can bring one of my friends in with me, then that would probably be that kind of way too.
Yeah. And I know, just because I know you, that you've recently bought a 3D printer. Is that part of the plan, or is that just John, what the fuck around?
That was originally
sort of I need a D&D character, I'm just saying.
It was originally sort of a hobby thing.
Yeah.
Because I designed certain stuff during the day, and my idea was I've been messing around with making toys or action figures for like 20 years. So ever since the first Marvel toys came out, or the first McFarlane toys, I was altering them with Sculpey and razor knives and painting them and doing all that kind of stuff. So the idea when they started, I always wanted to be able to make my own toys. So when the tech came out where I could say, I was figuring out how to sculpt stuff manually and then mold it. But I wasn't great at that, the molding part. I mean, I wasn't great at the sculpting physically, but I could figure out how to do it in the computer. And that was cool and all, but until I had a digital printer, I couldn't bring those sculptures out of the computer and bring them into real life. So really what it was for is I kind of have this side thing where I want to be able to, the goal is, I want to have an idea for a toy. I want to go down into my studio. I want to be able to sculpt, print, mold, cast, paint, and then create all the packaging for a finished product. And I want to be able to walk upstairs. I want to go downstairs with nothing, walk upstairs with something that looks like you bought it in a store. Yeah. All from scratch. And that's why I have a 3D printer now. That's why I have printers that can print on oversized cardstock, and I have a die cut machine and things like that, because it was for myself. Yeah. But now I can offer it to other people too.
It's that part of it's an interest that you're like, I think I can use this to make money. That kind of.
Well, it helps justify it, I guess. You're like this.
Shout out to Bethany.
Shout out to Bethany. So, it was it started out as a hobby, and I started learning it as a hobby. But there's no reason why, if you say you have an idea, there's no reason I can't do it for you. If you were like, I have an idea for an action figure, or I have
Andy Driscoll action figure,
of course. Yeah. What is it, Spider Jesus or?
Dude, that hair's long gone.
It's just long gone. You would have it still if if it was up to you.
Honestly, no. I just chose not to grow it back. For our listeners, I was 5 years ago. I think it was about 5 years ago. I had very long hair, cut it off, donated it, and
you kept the ZZ Top goatee from.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, is that a signature look?
I don't know. It just is.
Yeah, you don't want to see him without it. It's
horrifying.
It's awful.
It's awful. What if it was just straight up trim? Would you guys look too much alike?
Probably.
I just got some side eye from Fish. That was great.
So you went to Montserrat in Beverly.
I did.
When you were in Montserrat, was your plan to become a graphic designer, web designer, hobby toy maker, whatever it is? What is your job title?
My job title is I am the creative or senior graphic designer for Tryptic Press. Okay. So when I went to Montserrat, I studied illustration. Didn't technically have minors at that time. Yeah. So my concentration was in illustration, and I had a minor in graphic design. So,
and you've illustrated a few books.
I have 6 children's books right now, a 7th in the can that's coming out from Tryptic Press. And I have I went for illustration. I wanted to do editorial illustration. I wanted to draw stuff from magazines, and I freelanced for that a little bit after school, but it wasn't this was in like, 2000.
Right.
So it was even before the internet was huge, and I would paint
Before
things.
magazines just disappeared.
Well, there was plenty at the time,
Yeah.
but you would paint something, and then you'd have to like FedEx the painting to them so that they could scan it, and then they would send you your art back, and it was a whole different ball of wax than it is now. Like, but that's one of the things with Tryptic I want to do. I'm working on, I'm drawing again. Like I'm doing more illustration work, and that's one of my pursuits. But yeah, sorry, go back to school. I wanted to be an editorial illustrator. Cut to, I wanted to promote myself, and to do that, back in the day, you needed a mailer or a postcard. So I started going to, at the time, I went to go to Kinko's because they had computers you could rent, and they had all the software.
Mm-hmm. So
I got to go into the computer labs there, started playing with all of them, created my first mailers and stuff with them, and I actually, one of the people that worked there saw that I was pretty good with the computers. And she was like, why don't you, come and work here a little bit, in our creative department. And I was like, well, I was a bartender at the time, so I was like...
You were a bartender? I had no idea.
No. Well, as most creatives, you got to get your, while you're trying to become what you want to be, you have to, sometimes you work in the food industry.
Yep.
So I was bartending, and one of the people I met there, Fiona, was the manager of the creative department. She said, why don't you come over here and do some work for the creative department, which was, it was funny because it was Kinko's, so you wouldn't think it was this crazy thing, but at the time they were offering design services to much larger companies. So I ended up working with like Natick Army Labs and Bose and like a bunch and toy companies and things like that were coming to us because we were offering per hour graphic design services when nobody was. It was early in the day, and when they were done, we could print stuff. And
so it's kind of like one-stop shopping for them. If they didn't have on-premises type thing. Yeah.
Right, and if somebody was at a trade show and they were like, hey, I need something for tomorrow.
Yep.
They could come in, we would work with them, we'd print it out, we'd mount it, we'd send it out the door. So it was cool because I started doing graphic design sort of as a vehicle to promote myself as an illustrator.
Yeah.
And then I was like, well, I want to create the visuals, but when you're an illustrator, you create the visuals, you send it off, somebody else decides the way they wrap it, they decide what kind of text goes on top of it, they decide everything that goes around it. It's like when you're an illustrator graphic designer, I can do everything.
Right.
Like I can put the words in the type where I want to put it, and it's, I control it much more. So it all came from that, and then I started, and it all rolled downhill from there.
Well, I feel just from knowing you that you always seem to be like I don't know, quite an early adapter, but you are very eager to jump onto new tech. And
I'm definitely interested in it.
Yeah, so it's like anytime you're always like, hey man, check out this new software and this new thing, and being that up to date, I think any new software is based off the software before it. So when I went for the job that I was going for, they actually asked if I was be interested in the graphic design position. I'm like, oh shit, I can't do that. Like the last thing I worked on was Quark, and they're like, oh, we don't use that. I'm like, yeah, I know. Like no one uses it. So
it's still around.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Is it? I mean, now it's part of the business. Keeping up on that, is it more difficult now that you feel like you? Not that you have to, because you like to, but is it part of what makes you more adaptive?
I think that in any profession, if you accept the tools that come along that make your job easier or give you the ability to do things that you couldn't do before, that it just makes you better at what you do. Like if you're a carpenter and something comes along that, and
they have that new robot that hangs sheetrock,
or they've got this weird angle grinder, or they got this weird drill that allows you to do something you couldn't do before. It just makes sure if you've got that tool, you can do that much easier than other people. And it's the same thing with what I do, like with computers. I've been using these programs by this company called Affinity. Mm-hmm. I've been using them for the last 2 years, and they're a rival to Adobe.
Yeah.
Adobe's gone to this whole subscription model where they want, $50 a month to use all their software, and not everybody can afford that.
Right.
So it's like, do you keep paying them $50 a month forever, or do you look for other tools that can do the similar job? And that's what they were doing. They're like, we'll develop a tool that can do the same work, maybe think about solving the problem in a slightly different way.
Yeah.
And they have 3 programs right now that compete with Photoshop, Illustrator, and InDesign, and they're called Photo Designer and Publisher. And I'm all on board with them, and to the point where I'm using Designer to do work that I couldn't do in Illustrator. I'm creating custom brushes that are photo custom brushes that are allowing me to do things, and I'll show it to you later, that they look like I spent hours doing this thing, but really I spent 5 minutes making a brush that can do it. And you would never believe it, because it's not something that, like, it's giving me this toolbox or this tool set that I can do stuff that other people you would spend hours doing in Photoshop, or you would spend hours doing in Illustrator, and I could do it in minutes in this program because I have this tool that other people don't have. Which I'll tell everybody about it. It's fine.
Yeah.
You still have to know how to use it.
How to use it and learn the software, and
right.
And it's somewhere between that. You can't teach an old dog new tricks, and I feel like there's this inherent, if you were trained to do something one way and you learned the Photoshop way that would take you hours, and then someone comes along and be like, no, you just click this button, and they're like, well, that's fucking cheating. And there's, like, the perfect example is when we were at Beverly Comic Con, there's a studio there that builds like museum quality miniature replicas of boats and airplanes and things. And I'm sitting there talking to them like, let me ask you this question. And they're like, what? And I'm like, which one of you guys hates 3D printing? And the one guy's like, that's fucking, like, instantly, like, set him off. And it's like, is it cheating, or is it just, like you said, I can do it so much faster and easier and better.
Well, it depends on what you want to do. Like, like I'm not pretending it's an oil painting.
Yeah.
Like I'm not replacing that thing. When I work on something, I'm creating a visual. So whatever tool it takes to make the visual, at the end of the day, you don't care.
Right.
Like if I make an attractive visual and you're drawn towards it, you're going to say, hey, that's really cool, or I want to buy that product, or, or your website looks dope. Like nobody stops and says, did you use a pencil? Yeah. Or did you use your iPad Pro?
But I feel like the people that do it the old way are always kind of offended,
Well, yeah, the people who made wagon wheels were always mad that, now they can make tires, but there's still place in this world for people who do museum quality replicas of boats and planes. Yeah. So if you're good at it, if you're it doesn't replace that stuff. It replaces it for a certain portion of stuff. Like I do stuff for production.
Yep.
Like I don't sell a lot of my work. It's not museum stuff. It doesn't. Some stuff hangs on walls, but like for the most part, I've got drawers and drawers and drawers of pictures that I've drawn on paper, and people say that's cool or they like them. But usually, I use that to make books.
Yeah.
I use that to make stuff that I sell. So in the end, it doesn't really matter how I did it. Like if I can do the same thing with ink that I can do in Photoshop, like that's cool. Mm-hmm. Like I think or a better point is, I'm able to do what I can do digitally is because I understand how I did it physically. Yeah. And that informs my decisions as I try to make stuff digitally. And I think that's what makes what I do, like, quote unquote, better than someone who's just learned how to do it digitally, because I understand why that's called a dry brush. Yeah. Like, oh, I use this dry brush pen. Like, why is it called that? Like in the computer. Like, well, because
and the computers, to a certain extent, is not going to fix your perspective per se.
It's not going to fix your perspective, your anatomy, your color choices. It's not gonna change how you make things. And I was listening to you interview the illustrator guy that you were illustrating.
Kevin.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was listening to that yesterday, and he was talking about going to digital, and you guys were talking about digital and stuff, and it's like, it's a speed thing for me,
Yeah.
And it's because I would have to draw something, then scan it, then bring it in the computer, then clean it up, then do this. Like, there was 5 steps before I could do what I wanted to do in the computer before.
Right.
Now it's like I draw the picture in the computer.
Sometimes like on the screen.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's like I skip a bunch of steps. And like I said, I have drawers full of stuff that nobody wants to buy because they're pieces of something I did later. Like, so it's still me drawing. It's still me making decisions. It's still me picking what tools I use. It's still me picking colors. It's still me picking all of that. I still have to do everything.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that now I can do it all in one place. Whereas before, it's like you paint, you draw with a pencil, and then you ink with the ink, and then if you don't want to ruin that, maybe you scan it, and then maybe you print it back out, and then maybe you go into it with watercolor. Or you don't do that. You just go into it with watercolor. If you mess up, then you go over it with gouache, or you go over it with acrylic, and then you keep working on top of it to make this thing.
Yeah.
Now I use my iPad, and it's like...
And if you screw it up, you just hit back.
Or I paint right over it.
Yeah.
A lot of times, like, I draw with black and I draw with white. I don't even use the eraser.
Yeah.
Because the eraser slows me down. So,
I see. So you just switch to white and just draw over it.
Right.
Yeah, it's gone.
Same thing to me.
Right.
But it's still drawing, you know?
From a more, like, I don't know, philosophical question, how do you think that's going to affect, in, say, 100 years, provided certain politicians don't destroy us in 100 years, or before then, like, so now you can go and see the Mona Lisa.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, art from our time, like, how do you think that's going to be represented? Because, like, it could be a printout, but it may not exist in the same way that the Mona Lisa exists. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Where it's a digital thing, every museum could have it.
True.
And I'm not saying it's better or worse.
But I mean, printmaking's been around since Toulouse-Lautrec making posters back in the late 1800s, early 1900s. The print stuff's been around. Like, the only reason you get to see most of the stuff is because it was in print.
In print, yeah.
Even before digital, that was the only reason you could see it. Will it be, a print's never going to be as impressive as the original, but what if you made the thing in digital? I mean, so yeah. But what works of art right now, at least the fine art world or the collector art world, like, the stuff that's created digitally isn't what people consider to be fine art or whatever.
Right.
I don't know. Like, are we going to go look at, video screens of what people did 20 years ago? Like, I don't know, but I know for myself, I'm not making my stuff for that. Like, I'm making my stuff. But
I mean, even some of those, like, Toulouse-Lautrec, Hokusai, they were essentially commercial artists. They weren't necessarily...
They were, but the print was the final product.
Yeah.
Like, when people work, like, some people work in model print, or some people work in, lithograph or screen printing. Like, screen printing is something you can do 100 times, but you gotta... They did those 100 and that's it.
Yeah.
Like, I actually am very lucky. I own a Salvador Dali piece that he did later in life.
It's pretty dope.
Yeah, and it's a print.
Yeah.
It's a lithograph, but there's only a certain amount of them. And I happen to have one of the artist proofs, were the ones that he got to look at and say, these are the right colors, this is the right setup. So he was really involved with it. But that's a print. But that doesn't exist anywhere else but a print.
Right.
So it's sort of the same thing. It's like, I don't know. Like, do you, will we appreciate stuff as we do now? I don't know. Like, I think that some stuff will survive, and the cream will rise to the top, and we'll appreciate what looks great for what it is. I mean, there's probably... I don't know if there's more art being made now than there was back in the day. It's just that we definitely can see more.
Yeah. And I feel like there's more... Like you said, I don't know if there's more being made. The same thing is like with photography. When it went digital, everybody was taking photography, and it's great.
Well, what do they say now? Like, every single day there's more pictures that were taken every day than there was in the last, 200 years.
Yeah, because it's just so easy. And, when I was in Vegas, I took some photos with my cell phone that I'm like, damn, that's I kind of like that photo. Like, that might be worth printing out.
Dude, if you have I mean, if you have some of these newer phones, man, like they're competing with a lot of the.
If I only knew someone that did prints.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I was speaking to a friend of mine who's a long-time photographer.
Yeah.
And he's been shooting forever. Shot for sports, shot for weddings, shot for everything. He's an amazing photographer. And he said, the other day someone asked me for a headshot, and I didn't have a new one. So I went out in my yard, and I used my iPhone. It's like I turned my iPhone around, I took the picture, and it was like perfect. And that's what I used. And he showed it to me. I was like, well, first of all, I have an iPhone, and my pictures don't look like that. But he was like, he's like, I didn't set up any lights or anything. I just went outside, and the background's all soft, and it looks beautiful. And I'm like, yeah, you would have to spend so much money back in the day to do that. And actually, that's a good like correlation between digital art and traditional art is the analog versus the digital photography thing. Like the art of, developing film.
You would take a picture, and it would take you, best case scenario, a day to see if it came out good.
Well, you wouldn't know even if you got it. Yeah. Like, did I get the right moment? Was everything set up right? Like, there was no...
my thumb in the way? Yeah.
Right. Like, did something happen? Did it malfunction? Or you might have took all the right pictures, you brought it to get developed, and someone opened the door and the lights came on, and boom, all your film's gone. So, like, there was an art...
Sorry to totally interrupt. Have you seen Stranger Things Season 3?
Yeah.
I'd have killed her. Every single time the guy's developing photos, his girlfriend, like, opens the door. I'd be like, she'd be dead.
Well, I used to work for the newspaper as part of my graphic design journey, and before they went digital, there was a shop here in town, and they were one of their number one customers. Like, they spent $30,000 a year developing film. Yeah. The moment they went digital, that shop lost $30,000. Yeah. It was gone.
Gone. Out of business.
Out of business. Gone. So, because now they're shooting digital, they could shoot 1 million pictures, bring it back to the shop, do some digital digital developing, and figure out what you had, and play with it forever. And but that's the thing, it's the same thing, everything evolves. Like, there's still going to be room for all of these things, but the digital art and the digital photography is like, it's a new tool to do the same thing.
And I feel like there's a lot of the new tool comes out, there's like a big craze and trend to use it all the time, and then there's kind of like a sobering moment where everyone's like, okay, hang on, what is it really good for? You see it in movies, like when they had computer generated images, everything was doing it all the time, and then fast forward to Peter Jackson, he was more like, hang on, sometimes we want to build miniatures, sometimes we want practical effects, sometimes we want computer
generated. When they did the Matrix bullet time thing.
Oh, yeah.
It was everywhere.
Oh, my God.
I was like, it was cool, like, the first 2 times you saw it, and then when you saw that in, like, Shrek, you were like, all right, that's excessive. But we come up with a cool tool, or like Instagram filters, like everything looks like it was shot through Instagram now, right? But in a couple of years they're gonna be like, yo, that's that Instagram filter,
You don't really look like that.
So I mean, I think we got off on a weird tangent.
That's usually how everything goes around here. I feel like this was pretty much on par. Like, this is how. I don't feel like it was that weird of a tangent. We didn't. Now that you brought up the tangent, now I'm talking about the tangent, now it's weird.
Now it's weird?
You made it weird.
All right.
So, let's talk bartending and the finding of Inebri-Art.
Okay. We can go there.
Well, yeah, it was a long time ago.
It was a long time ago. I've been out the game for a little while.
So, we started as a drink and draw.
We did.
And, I'll tell the story.
All right, why don't you tell the story?
This particular story. So when Fish and I first used to hang around Fridays in Plymouth, that's where we used to hang around. What we thought was a new bartender started, and if anyone's ever been on a Fridays, they always encourage like flair. And this particular bartender had a little Batman logo. I'm like, let's see if this guy is like a real nerd. And we're like, hey man, do you prefer? I think we asked Tim Drake or Dick Grayson, and you were like, I prefer Damien, and we're just kind of like, oh shit, we just got served. And that was how we met John Cardinal.
You try to check my nerd.
Yeah, and you
fides.
like bitch slapped us.
Yeah, I was current at the time.
It kind of all stemmed from you wanting to start a drink and draw.
I think that we had talked about it, and I like the idea of it. And there were certain nights I had to work, and you guys would come and hang out, and it was a way to be creative at work, and play around. And the idea of, I think we've talked about this before, but drawing and those kind of things are usually antisocial type of activities, and doing it in a social atmosphere forces like antisocial people to come out of their shell.
Yeah.
And sort of that's the whole impetus for Inebri-Art. It's like, take this creative stuff that you do in your bedroom or in your studio or by yourself and come out and be social, and like so us sitting there drawing and passing a sketchbook and getting other people involved that had no idea what the hell was going on.
Yeah, it was just like drawing the sketchbook, and they're like, I don't draw.
Like, I don't draw.
You can draw something.
Who cares, dude?
Yeah.
Like, and I always tell people, it's like, it's not that you can't draw. It's that you can't draw like the other people that you like.
Right.
Like, and
you can draw a flower or a dog.
everybody can draw a stick figure.
Yeah.
The only difference
I don't know. Can fish draw? Have you seen fish draw?
well, here's the difference.
There's exceptions to every rule.
It's the difference with everything. Like,
Yeah.
you can draw. You could draw, like, if you're up there doing your Pictionary thing, I'm sure you could get the point across. The point is that on Friday night, when I spend 8 hours trying to figure out how to draw this little thing, like, you're out living your life. That's not what you want to do. So you can't compare what you do and what I do, or what you do and what Andy does, because that's not what you enjoy doing. Like, you're not trying to get your 10,000 hours. You're not trying to perfect, like, 4-point perspective. Like, you don't care about that. Like, and that's fine. You be you. But, like, when people come in and like, I can't draw like you, like, yeah, because you didn't spend
40 some odd years doing it. Yeah.
Like, I've had this thing with my kids and learn, like, I love what they do. Like,
Yeah.
I absolutely love what kids draw. Like, I love how they approach subject matter. I love little kid art. I love all of, like, any of that kind of thing, because they don't have any rules put upon them. They're not thinking about,
They'd be like, what do you mean? I can make a green elephant.
exactly.
Yeah.
Like, that eye's too big. Like, no, that's what I wanted to do. I think that's great. So it's like, but it's those, I tell them, they're like, well, I can't draw like you. But I'm like, yeah, but I started like you, and then I did it for 40 years.
Right.
So it's like, it's what are you going to look like in 40 years? Like, you don't compare what you do and what I do. And it's not a competition anyway. It's like,
That's what you keep telling me.
That's because he's winning.
Then you fuck with my head.
it's not a competition. It's like, because we're not going to come to the same result. So
yeah, no. You're never going to have...
if
You're never going to draw the same way as someone else.
No, and that's the point. Like, if we all did, it would be boring.
Yeah.
Like, so you really, like, we both could look at the same thing. We appreciate different aspects of it. We would try to convey that in our work, and we would use different ways to try to express the same information. We're trying to show something to somebody else in the way that we communicate. Like, it's not a competition, because we're not doing the same thing. One might be more successful than the other, but that's subjective as well.
Right.
So it's not.
And that's one of my favorite things about something like figure drawing, is you can walk around the room and everyone's working in a different medium. Some people are drawing exactly what's up there.
Yep.
You have some people that are drawing in a completely... They're just taking the pose and turning it into an anime type thing.
Yeah.
Then you have someone that's just drawn the boobs, and someone else who's just drawn the face, and so everyone is doing something completely different, but they're all doing the same thing.
Yeah, they're looking at the same thing and they're getting different things from it. So how can you be like, oh, there's a competition and who's the best? Like, well, it depends on if we all had the same goal.
Right.
And we don't.
Right.
Or if we are all using the same
Medium. Yeah.
and we're not. Like, it's like, so it's not a competition, and like, or maybe you just been there once.
Yeah.
Like, all I do is draw people. Like, if I did a horrible job, like, in your eyes, like, I'd be like, okay, well, I failed in my eyes, but like, that's not because that's the thing I like to draw the most. So,
Yeah.
like, so for me, when I go and I draw people, like, I'm not trying to do the same thing as what anybody else is trying to do. I'm trying to capture, like, I like to do, like, you said I'm fast. Like, I like to work fast.
Yeah.
Because it
I believe I said you're annoyingly fast.
Well, the point is I like to get the whole pose as fast as possible and then noodle.
Yeah.
Because I want to get I want to have a whole picture at all times of what I'm looking at. And like, but I'm trying to do so. That's the thing. I'm trying to practice something else. I'm trying to practice speed.
Yeah.
So it's like, I'm not trying to draw perfect everything. Like,
right.
I'm trying to capture a moment.
And it's very much, eye of the beholder's cliche, but I remember Haig came down one time and he threw this drawing on the floor, and I think it was me and Dan Kern were like, I'll fucking wrestle you for it. Right. And Haig was like, oh, shit. And we're like, that's fucking amazing.
Well, it's the same thing. I've been up to my buddy Mike Crockett's studio, and like, there's a picture of his that was in his trash that's hanging in Andy's house because he took it and he hung it up because he thought it was beautiful. But that's the thing. Sometimes people see beauty in something that you don't, because Mike had a different goal
right
at that moment in life. So for him, it was unsuccessful. But to Andy, it was beautiful. Like, so it's the same thing. Like, we don't all have the same goals. Like, and we don't all appreciate the same things. So, I don't know.
Well, this was pretty deep, dude. I was figuring it was going to be like, this would be all like dick jokes, and
I tried to not make
fun
of
names.
you. Usually I just come on here and tell horrible stories and make fun of you. So I figured.
Yeah, we've had some really good ones.
Yeah. Actually, Bethany was like, "What are you doing?" I'm going on the podcast. I was like, "Actually, I've been on it 3 times. This is my 3rd time." And she was like, "What?" I was like, "Don't listen to those."
I believe the other ones were our Christmas specials, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's some good Christmas-based stories. Yeah.
So we covered like stupid things like why am I named Monster and things like that, which I'm not going to rehash. But
yeah.
But and dumb stories about other things. But I figured I'd try to talk about real things tonight.
I feel like this was pretty on point.
Did I stay on point?
I think more than normally we do on this show. Yeah, usually. This is about how on point we stay with people we don't know. That we can't start bringing up weird shit and going off on.
I guess we could go into like a lot of weird shit.
Yeah, yeah. Plenty of Friday stories, and
I think we brought this up, and it just a quick Inebri-Art story. As I was, Sherpa was telling the story the other day about how he came in and he didn't realize that I wasn't just the bartender.
Okay.
At Drink and Draw, and he was kind of being like condescending and kind of like about like me being involved in Drink and Draw. And then he found out, and he's like, "Oh shit!" He's like, "A white man can't jump him."
Yeah.
He thought I was just like the bartender guy, and then all of a sudden I dunked on him. So that was pretty funny when he told that story the other day. I was like, "That's just." But yeah, Inebri-Art's been, just to circle back. What was it, 2010?
2011.
2011. Yeah, Inebri-Art was great because at the time I wasn't, I was working in graphic design, but I wasn't drawing as much as I wanted to do, and I was bartending.
Were you still working at the newspaper then?
I was working at the newspaper, and I was bartending, and I was landscaping, and I had little kids, and I wasn't getting to be as creative as I wanted to. It was, I had a lot of stuff going on in my life, and I was just trying to pay the bills, and I was just trying to, make it. So being able to take a portion of my life that could have been kind of grinding, and put a creative bend on it was and has been amazing. Like to take that portion of my week and then say, hey, I have to do this thing, but I'm also going to be creative. I'm also going to talk to my friends. I'm also going to be able to draw and shoot the shit.
We had a lot of fun.
That's been great. And I'm not in Plymouth as much as I'd want to be, and I haven't been around for everything that you got going on, but it's like those kind of things have been like a godsend for me, because without that, it wouldn't have sparked all the things I've done since then.
Yeah.
I think that since then, since we've started this, like, I've had a complete, transformation from what I was to now what I am, and I think that wouldn't have happened if we didn't do what we did. Like, I wouldn't have gone to Boston Comic-Con and saw, you guys set up and realized that that's something that maybe I could do.
Anyone can do it? They let you in here?
I never knew. I was I didn't know that was a world that I could be in. I didn't know that I could do comic book stuff, or I didn't know that, like, even if that was something that was attainable, and it wasn't until I started hanging out with you guys that I realized that was something that I could do. And I was like, all right. And then when we started doing, when we went to Dr. Sketchy's and realized that they were kind of, dicks about, like, trying to let us be part of the plan. Like, the hell with them. Like, our response to that, I think, has been the best part about it. Is like, why this could have been part of your deal,
right?
But now it's our deal because they were dumb about it. Like,
because it was possibly 50 miles away.
Yeah, you were 50 miles away from Boston.
Yeah,
like, people aren't going to Boston to do this,
right?
Like,
I just remember my response being like, "Yeah, I don't want to drive to Boston."
Yeah, what is it? Is it next week? When is the 6th year?
No, 6 years. The first Monday in August.
Was that all right?
So yeah,
a couple weeks.
Up. Yeah,
that's gonna be 6 years that Inebri-Art life drawing's been going on. It's like
we are the second longest running thing at New World Tavern.
There you go.
The only thing that is longer is trivia, and you're not going to beat trivia at a bar.
I'm not gonna beat trivia.
No, I mean, bars will always have trivia, but I mean, it's to the point now. Like, we walk in, and Carl, like, hands you a piece of paper, and he's like, "Come on, we're loading the cooler," and you're like, "All right, what are we doing?" And it's such a weird family,
Yeah.
We've been working with these people forever. I mean, they don't know who the fuck you are.
That's true.
But we do.
Fair enough.
We do.
Fair enough. I'm the absentee.
John, where can people go to find out more information about Tryptic?
Trypticpress.com. TRYPTIC press.com. Also on Instagram, same thing. Also on Twitter, Facebook. Tryptic Press Design is our Facebook page.
And it's the one with the Tryptic Press logo, not the
We've moved
logo.
Yeah, we've gone from a
you
personal
should shut that
page.
shit down.
I'm going to. We've gone from a personal page to a business page.
Yeah.
For many reasons, but back in the day we started as a personal page,
right?
And we were friends with people and we did things one way, and now that we're full-time business, we've moved people over to our business page. So we're getting giving people the chance to move over before we shut it down. But yeah, so it's Tryptic Press, the business page, but you can tell one of them says we moved and one of them is active. But yeah, we're online everywhere. Reach out if you have an idea and you want to see it real. Hit me up.
What's the Holy Grail? That would be unbelievable gig if you got it.
Wow, hits me up like that.
Yeah, why not?
If I got to draw
Moon Knight,
Spider-Man, probably.
Yeah,
I do love Moon Knight, but if I got to draw Spider-Man, that would be one thing. Probably a movie poster in the vein of like Drew Struzan or something like that. That would probably be up there. I am doing some book cover stuff like this for a novel right now. That's up there, but yeah, probably either getting to draw Spider-Man in some respect or to do a movie poster in the Drew
Spider-Man movie poster.
Well, then you're combining everything.
Well,
and then I'm best friends with Tom Holland, and then like then the world's great.
Have you seen the?
Of course I have.
Yeah. What'd you think?
I thought it was great.
I was flabbergasted at how good they did with Mysterio.
I thought
it was amazing.
I thought it was great. My only problem was knowing the stories of the comic books. Like, I knew what was coming like a mile away.
Yeah.
And I was like, are we out of spoiler land now? We can talk about this? Or
Yeah.
what?
Yeah, it'll have been out for like a week and a half. Go
Yeah.
for it.
Well, I mean, so, knowing
So if you
the
don't want to
story-
hear, shut the podcast off if you don't want to hear anything about the movie.
All right. And if you only cared, if you are still here at this point, yeah, so when so knowing Mysterio, he's a master of illusion and things like that, and the whole, like, his original origin, like, I had going into this, I was like, okay, well, I thought from the trailer where they pulled the big trick, I thought that maybe he was coming from another dimension.
Yeah.
And that he was a special effects artist in that dimension. He was trying to make himself look cool, and then Spider-Man was going to uncover the fact that he was fake, thus making him like lose his status, which would make them two fight. And I was like, that was going to be what's going to happen. I was cool. I was like, oh, the multiverse and things like that. That's dope. Obviously, spoilers, that's not what's happening.
Right.
But he was faking.
It was pretty close, yeah.
I was close enough to it that I was like, listen, if you've seen the trailers and there's no bad guy announced, like, there's no
He's
Green
the bad
Goblin.
guy. Yeah,
He's the fucking bad guy.
Yeah.
Like, figure it out.
Right.
So I thought he looked dope. I thought it was cool. It was Jake Gyllenhaal. He did a great job. Everything was cool.
I thought he did phenomenal. I
thought it looked great.
Yeah.
Thought all of that was cool. I thought the stingers at the end, like the fact they brought they brought Jonah back.
Yep.
Like, that was amazing. And I don't know if you played the PlayStation 4 game, but he is J. Jonah in the game.
He is J. Jonah Jameson. Yeah.
Yeah, he is. J.K. Simmons is Jameson in a way that you just don't get with anyone else.
He's
it.
He's it.
He's
the
the
guy.
same way that Patrick Stewart is Professor X.
Mhm.
Where if you cast anyone else, you're failing.
I mean, the only problem with that is that he's Picard for me. But
Right. But
I mean, I don't, and other than like what, I don't have that with J.K. Simmons. Like, I don't, like, I'm not like, oh, he's the insurance.
Oh, you don't see
commercial
him
guy.
as like.
that's right. He is the insurance commercial
You
guy.
don't see him as like the psychologist from Law and Order,
No.
which is how I know him. So it's really fucking weird. And for God's sakes, watch Oz, because oh boy,
I've heard that,
that's right.
and I haven't got into that yet.
Oh,
but
boy.
that's where Vincent D'Onofrio from Law and Order fucks with me trying to be Kingpin. I'm like, you're just that fat. You're fat. Like, you were on that show before. You were fat, but now you're fat, and now you're Kingpin. But he did a good job. But I still always see him as that. Same thing with. All right, you can turn this shit off now. Don't worry about this. but same thing as my son was like, oh, Ben Affleck was fine as Batman. I was like, no. Like, he's the dude from Mallrats.
Yeah.
Like, he's not fucking Batman. Like, don't.
Unless he's trying to fuck him in the backseat of a car.
Exactly.
See?
In an uncomfortable space. So, I mean, like what, like the back of a Volvo.
But yeah, back of Volkswagen. I can't
Back to
remember.
a Volkswagen? Yeah.
It's been a while since I've seen that movie.
Exactly. So, I mean, like, I'm like, no, he's always Ben Affleck. He can't be Batman because I can't suspend disbelief. Whereas JJ, I'm like, that's JJ as far as I'm concerned. Like, and to see him back, and then he's in the game. Like I said, he's in the game. Like, when you're swinging around, it's like he's like a radio show or a podcast thing, and he's always on.
Yeah. I did like how they made him.
no, he's basically
Infowars.
Alex Jones.
Yeah,
which is perfect.
it's amazing. Yeah.
So, but anyway,
all right. So that's our review of the Spider-Man movie.
Yeah. Well, we both liked it, or all three of us liked it.
Go check it out. So they make $1 billion, and
Kate liked it. So we can throw that in there.
Yeah.
I've spoken to her about it.
So it makes $1 billion. The rights don't revert back to Sony. So
I don't think that's real.
I don't know. That's what the internet said.
That's like
it has to be real.
That's like a dumb rule. Like, my movie has to make $1 billion. I'm like, you made what, 5 of these before that didn't make $1 billion? Like, take a walk.
So that's pretty much it, man. Thanks for coming on.
All right, thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks, Fish, for piping in about the nerdy parts.
It's
a podcast when you pipe in. Thanks.
Thanks, Fish. Shout out to Bethany.
Shout out to Bethany. Okay, thanks for checking out the podcast. And don't forget to check out our other podcasts on the Inebri-Art Podcast Network. There's the Bar Talk. There's Old Colony Cast. There's, of course, the Inebri-Art Podcast. And our latest, Retro Redoctopus, a kind of
nerd genre podcasts that you can check out now, all available on our website at inebri-art.com. And pretty much available everywhere that podcasts are available, on Stitcher, iTunes, Google Play, Apple Podcasts, all those things. And if you don't see it where you're looking, let us know. We'll try to get onto that as well. And you can also email us at inebri-art@yahoo.com with your questions, complaints, and suggestions. And also, if you could take the time to rate and review us on iTunes, that would be phenomenal. That helps us get more exposure and bring more of these great podcasts to your ears. And thanks again for listening.